we finally have a new boss. So this boss's special effect is interesting and a bit bad if you don't have SMoko and Haru, I guess, but Haru can borrow. But SMoko is good here because of element accuracy buff. But this first special effect is increased to the final damage up to 15% at 150% element accuracy, which is just nice. Also the element accuracy for Haru, but definitely intentional there from the devs. Then psychic damage increase was a stack, so the boss will do more damage as you progress through the fight. The boss gimmick itself is quite interesting. Okay, not really interesting, but the buffs it gives is interesting because it buffs you pierce rate. So all of them basically just when you attack them, they will give you up to 10% pierce rate and also up to 20% damage increase. And the funny thing is that the boss themselves can also get this buff when they attack you, which explains why this boss hits pretty hard. It's just the team, no surprises here. If you don't have SMoko, you can definitely replace Marion or Cherish. So I'll have both rotations at the end of the video. And you also get to see which one is better. A1 R0 Marion or A0 Cherish. Well, stay tuned to find out. So let's go through Haru. Let's explain her kit. At first glance, she might look very complicated to use because she has like a bunch of like this round thing, right? Focus round, you have what? Endpoint round, overload round, but the round thing is basically a buff to her gun. General idea is use her skills and highlight to buff her gun. Then her gun will do big damage. So let's go through A0. The funny thing is that her gun is considered as psychokinesis damage, so I'm not even sure if Mesa's synergy can buff her damage because Mesa's synergy is gun damage increaser. So I don't know if it counts as the buff here. But yeah, regardless, I recommend to get Mesa to level 15 just in case. And like I already explained, you basically just use skill to buff a gun. And that buff is called Thoughtful Round. And there's a bunch of different names for the Thoughtful Round. And you can get only up to 3 stacks of the buff. And of course, the more stacks you have, the more damage your gun is going to do. And after using your gun, all the buffs will be removed and you need to restack them again. Skill 1 is AoE and you can inflict this thing called Target Audience. This target audience thing is just like a stack that doesn't really do anything at A0, but it will activate like other parts of a skill to do more damage. Then you get one focus round. So one of the bullets here, one of the buffs here for the gun. This one is basically a skill damage increase. Skill 2 is a single target move, which is not really useful here because we are doing AoE damage, but if you use her for whatever reason, then you will have increased pierce rate here, but only to this skill. But you only get this pierce rate when you have the target audience, which you get from skill 1. But that's why I said target audience will buff the other skills to activate more effects. Then after using this skill 2, you'll get pain point round, which is just more damage basically to the main target of your gun. Then for skill 3, when you have target audience, which is again this thing you get from skill 1, you increase the crit rate of this skill. So you have to be quite careful with not over capping the crit, especially in higher awareness Haru. Because higher awareness Haru, let's say A1 has a 18% crit rate buff when you have target audience. Okay, I'm not sure if this one shows or not, but this one definitely doesn't show from the skill 3. So I recommend you to go to live.net. There's also a critical rate calculator. You can click it. That one is super easy to use. No need tutorial for that. Just click it and see if you overcap to over 100%. If you do, you need to find some ways to reduce that because you're wasting damage. Then after skill 3, you get a spill over round, which will also increase damage. And a highlight is an AoE attack and it also buffs the gun. And it's called the overload round. The overload round increases crit rate again. Okay, not again, but this crit rate is only for the gun. Just now, this crit rate is for skill 3 only. The highlight crit rate, the buff is for the gun. So you need to be careful to look at your Haru stat in-game to make sure that when you add this number, it doesn't go over 100%. Now her passive, this one is the one that requires you to be 150% element accuracy because 20% crit damage for every 50% element accuracy. So 60% crit damage total and 150% element accuracy. And you also get some attack buff, 1% attack for every 1.45% element accuracy. So the cap is actually higher than 150%. Just take 1.45 times 165 and that's the cap for this passive. Like for this first sentence of the passive. But you don't really need to chase that. You rather have more crit rate or crit damage over an element accuracy just to buff this attack. So the second passive is a permanent buff and it's called Area to Improve. Every time you get a Thoughtful Round, so basically every time you use a skill 1, skill 3 or highlight, or skill 2 also if you use it, because they give you the Thoughtful Round. And then each stack will do different things. One stack will increase element accuracy, increase element resistance. 2 stacks will increase attack and defense. Skill 3 will increase crit damage. All of these are pretty good buffs. And you get them automatically by using her in battle. Now for cards, she's running Wisdom and Pleasure. This will increase psychic damage and just regular damage in general. 50% increase. No, not 50%, 30% increase. It's 50% of accuracy, so 60% accuracy will give you 30% increase. For the stat cards, if you have a 5-star weapon using Moko, then your star card can be a crit rate card. If you're using A1 Haru above, you might want to consider a crit multiplier card instead, because you might have a chance of over capping the crit. And for subset, just look for the typical DPS stuff: damage multiplier, pierce rate, crit multiplier, crit rate, attack. And if you don't have enough accuracy, I suggest you to prioritize the accuracy. I'm okay, so I don't really invest much in accuracy, so only like 2 cards after moment. It's only like 5% from the cards, because I don't really need them. And for 5-star weapon, increase in psychic damage and increase accuracy. And here's the stat screen. I do have her at pretty high pierce rate, 11%. Just make sure that the crit rate doesn't go above 100% after your rebellion and stuff in battle. And I also need to consider the skill 3 and highlight crit rate buffs, because they don't count towards this one. And accuracy, just make sure it's over 150% in battle. So SMoko is like 58%. Then if you're using a Starry Night Compass, it's like 18 to 20 something percent. Just make sure it's at the cap. Then we have our healer in SMoko, very good for Haru. Not just for accuracy increase, but her skill 2 in general is really good because it buffs attack. And her skill 3 can debuff the opponents by increasing the damage taken, so that's also nice. She's actually running Harmony and Power, a different set this time, not Harmony Victory. I use Harmony Power because I just found out it's slightly better, just slightly, because it buffs attack to Moko, so she can do a bit more damage here. Then the opposite effect here is increase the psychic damage 10%, so you can buff Haru also, and herself. For star weapon, stat screen. And of course your core is running the Trust and Prosperity set, 5-star weapon, stat screen. Then Futaba is running Integrity Label for the stat increase, 5-star weapon, stat screen. The Wander's Dagger is a no-brainer, Starry Compass. Starry Compass is really good. If you want to spend your Joy Medal on a dagger, Starry Compass is the one to spend. It's really solid. Just make sure you don't fully max it out. The reason is because the final dupe is an attack buff to Wander, which is useless. You can click here and see the buffs. So you can see that 6 is a buff to Wander's attack, which is useless. So if you want to max it until 5 only, very very important. I've seen people make the mistake of just duping everything to max because they didn't know that it's an attack buff here. And so until 5 is enough. Save your Joy Medals or something else. And at the max buff, this weapon can give 22% defense debuff, and it's AoE, and you pretty much don't really have to do anything because it's very easy to max out the stacks, right? You just attack to max the stack. The Armor Accuracy is good here to buff your Haru, and Psychokinesis damage increase of course for Haru also. So very good. Even in general for an AoE boss, I think Starry Compass is going to be pretty good. Persona is going to be dependent on your account, so I think the rotation may be a little bit specific to mine. If a team is like mine, A00, A0, A0, then you can just follow. But if you have like a 5-star weapon, Moko weapon, or A1 Poko weapon, then you don't need Vishnu here. And speaking of Vishnu, you need him at max overclock for this to work. So mine is at max overclock. So max overclock is 48% defense debuff, and first and second is 32 only. So if you don't have in max overclock, I suggest you to just use Cert and use Marakunta. Only follow this video's rotation if it's max overclock, because the defense debuff is a lot higher. The only downside to Vishnu over Cert is that Vishnu only debuffs for 2 turns, but it's fine because I tested it. It is better because the 2 turns is on the turns that matter for Haru, which is the skill 3 turns and the highlight turns. So turn 2, 3 and 5, 6. And make sure you give him Makarudai to inflict Wingshot, and possible just give it a bunch of like the accuracy boost and stuff to increase your chance of inflicting Wingshot. And next up is Shiva, the new persona. This one you don't need to build it at all. If you want, you can give some attack boost, I guess, side boost, whatever, increase the damage a bit. Okay, so you need him to be at 3 stacks of this wisdom thing, which you get 1 stack every turn. So you can use him for turn 3 and turn 6 to unleash the signature skill, and this will debuff the target's defense and increase crit taken rate. Not crit damage, it's crit rate taken, or crit taken rate I guess. I think crit rate taken sounds better, but yeah. I didn't even know that shock is also crit rate taken increase. I always thought it was crit damage and nobody ever corrected me. So I just thought of that for like almost 6 months. So I might have screwed up some rotations by overcapping the crit. But anyway, just know that this is crit rate taken, and this 12% doesn't get included to the in-battle stat screen. So you have to add 12% to the number that shows there. And that's also including Haru's own buffs, right? Which I mentioned just now, the crit rate from skill 3 and highlight. You need to add that yourself, make sure you don't overcap. Last persona of course diagonizes for the rebellion, crit rate and crit damage. For turn order, highly recommend Wander first, then SMoko, Core, Haru. Wander first so that you can actually use Shiva to debuff the opponents, then SMoko can do some damage. So if you're running Surt over Vishnu, then your rotation is gonna be Marakunda, Rebellion, and also Vishnu. Then you replete. You only use this video's rotation if you are max overclock Vishnu and you don't have A1 SMoko also, because A1 SMoko gives you a lot of defense debuff, so you don't really need defense debuff anymore. Or at least not Vishnu, maybe Surt also okay. You just do the damage calculation, the defense calculation and stuff. You know how much you need. Because you don't want to overcap because that's wasted damage. Skill 2 SMoko. Skill 2 with Horde. And just remember that you need 150% ammo accuracy for Haru in battle. Make sure you check. Okay, this one not 150 yet, but after the passive here, this passive can buff 18%, then we should be 150%. Into skill 1. Using skill 1 will give this target audience thing, which will buff her skills basically. And also give her the buff for the gun later on. This stage does hit pretty hard, and SMoko is actually not that good as a sustain. Mayron and Cherish can sustain better, but SMoko does buff better because her skill 2, skill 3 can buff, debuff and stuff pretty good. Then with skill 1 with Otava. Also a nice thing that when you attack the boss you get some pierce rate buff, and also you get fire damage increase based on your ammo accuracy, so you do need 150%, not just for Haru. Haru's like own stats and stuff, but the stage effect itself also have a gimmick. So you do want to reach the ammo accuracy. So if you don't have SMoko, you can struggle a little bit to hit that. Your score is gonna suffer also. But yeah, that's how it is, I guess. Then we do Vishnu, Magaru line, pray for Windswept. Oh, the fire that's pretty good. Then we do skill 3 Moko. Moko can do some decent damage here from her skill 3 and from her like follow-up attacks. We do Haru highlight. Her highlight will also give her a buff to a gun. Right now you can see that there's two stacks, 2 bullets, because we use a skill 1 in the highlight. Now this quote skill 1, make sure you attack the one that is the small one and it's not resisted. And the one and also has Windswept, so do more damage. And we do skill 3. This will give the final buff to the gun. And just a tank. We're looking a bit low. Oh no, that's scary. It's fine. Actually, that's kind of good for this turn because we can use skill 2 from Moko. Yeah, skill 3 for Taba on Haru. Then do Shiva. Shiva will increase physical damage, psychic damage taken, can reduce defense also. No, not psychic damage taken, psychic crit rate taken increase, which will buff Haru quite a bit. And skill 3 with what? And 2, that's pretty good. Then we gun. You can see that we have 3 bullets here, so it indicates here all 3 buffs already. And just unleash and destroy them. 1.4. Okay, not quite, almost there. Okay, now is when it starts to hit pretty hard. You are good as long as they don't attack. Use 2 single target move on the same character. Okay, that's how the 2 Gaudan they spread out. That's good. Using Marine or Cherish should be easy to tank. If you're using Moko, At least A0, Moko, the problem is struggle to survive a little bit. May take you a few resets. So we use a buff highlight. And we do a Valiant of the crit. And just to make sure, if your Haru is A1 and above, you need to be careful of the crit. Make sure that you do not overcap on the crit. Right now I'm 56.5, but the thing is that her passives here, passive, her skill 3 has a crit rate increase, 14.6%. No, this is not skill 3, this is highlight. Her skill 3 also has a 19.5% crit rate increase. So you want to be careful because those crit rate doesn't get included to the in-battle stat. Skill 3. Reflectornet also has a crit rate calculator which you can input to know like how much crit you have on the character. And do a skill 1. After using the gun, the buffs are all like used up. Need to restack the buffs again. Just don't hit Haru, please. Haru's gonna be really low. 75% chance, man. Come on. Okay, good. Hold is very good because you resist electric. Okay, we do skill 1 for tower. Then we do Vishnu again. Pray for Windsweep. Only 3 unfortunately. Then we do Moko skill 2. Skill 1. Make sure you attack the one that is Windsweep and also not resisted. And also another thing is that the boss themselves also get the buffs here, which is funny. And that explains why they hit hard, I guess. Now we do a chord highlight. We do skill 3. Good damage. Just a tank, which should be fine. We got the extra shield from Futaba also. From the data stone. Fine. Then you can do the final big damage. Skill 3 Futaba. And go Shiva. So Diva defense, increase crit taken rate. Rate taken, crit taken rate, I don't know. Skill 3 Moko. That's 100k. 100k, that's pretty good. Then chorus, skill 3. Then we can do Haru highlight. Then the final gun. Let's go. Okay, that's pretty good. Would be 80 million plus 81, 82. 82.7, that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna show you a couple rotations. This first one is with Marion over SMoko. So for Marion, the rotation is gonna be quite different from the one in the video because Marion, my one is A1 R0 Marion. She has pierce rate, so I require less defensive buff. That's why I'm using Marakunda here instead of Vishnu, because Marakunda is less defensive buff and Marakunda lasts for 3 turns. And then since the damage is quite a lot, you can actually spam a lot of skill 3 here, which is pretty good because skill 3 can activate her 5-star weapon as long as you have diagnosis stack. Then the final score is 71 million, which is a pretty big difference, 10 million difference compared to the one in the video, which is not surprising. The next one is with Cherish. Cherish rotation is the same as the video, just that you just include Cherish here, 3-1, 3-1, 3-1. And surprisingly, or maybe not, very close to the Marion one. It's only like 1 million difference. And my Cherish is only A0 by the way. A0, no 5-star weapon. His skill 3 isn't even max yet. Like, okay, not max, but like, not cap yet. Because I haven't hit the defense requirement. So if I saw weapon, he would definitely outscore Marion, and it's not even the maximum potential yet because it's only 3 windswept, 4 windswept. So high windswept definitely outperform Marion. And when you use like a skill 1 here, make sure you target the one that is windswept by the Vishnu. And core skill 1, target the one that is both windswept and frozen to maximize the damage. And this is the rotation for this video. Just another reminder that only use this if your Vishnu is max overclock. If not, you can do Marakunda, Rebellion, Shiva, Marakunda, Rebellion, Shiva.